Purpose of this video is to show how a structural engineer will start drawing foundation plan. One of the first things that the structural engineer would do, or his or her drafts person, would be to create what we call the foundation plan. So foundation plan will be something that's drawn over a ground floor plan. So we're going to change this. I'm going to change it to foundation plan. Okay. Foundation plan involves putting in footings. So the drawing will be drawn on the model space. By the way, let's just change this. A1 is not A1 anymore. It's called S1. Okay. And so now here is the preliminary side ground floor, which is basically this. We just change everything to a thin layer. Okay, I just save that, and then it will just be forced to check this. Anyway, for some structural engineers, this would still be too um, white or not as hidden. But let's just use this. Let's just use this as our base drawing. So the structural engineer will make a layer, and we'll call it S, and then FTNG for footing. He will assign it a color, and again it depends what color he wants. Let's just leave it as color 4. And what he will do is he will put in a footing, and that would typically be a line drawn, okay, on the edge of the wall, and we can't see it, but we can click on this one, right click, and then change the order so that it's brought to the very back. Okay, and the line here is on top of it. Okay, uh, like that. And just right click on it and see if we can bring it to the front. It will stand out. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So, but anyway, and then he will make a double line. So he's gonna offset that. And whatever design, let's say 16 inches. And this double line is actually his footing. Okay, and that goes all the way around the perimeter. First, the perimeter, and we'll discuss the other parts also. Okay, and then they will offset that 16, 24. It depends on the structural calculations of how thick that footing needs to be. There you go. Okay, and then clean up the walls. Now clean up the footings. Okay, and then this footing is also would have a line type of a hidden. So we'll go into load the line type hidden. It's not here, it's over here, but it's under the extra files. We're going to load a hidden line type. And then let's see, select hidden. And that's basically how it's going to look like. Okay. So if we save this and go back to the layout, S1, okay, you will see a dash line all around. Okay. And you can see that there's a gray and light one over here. And when we preview, that's how it's going to look like. And this double line here is what we call a strip footing or a continuous wall footing. And what is this wall footing all about? So what happens on the site? So for example, this is our ground floor, or not a ground floor, but this is the dirt or the ground. The on during construction, they would um, dig the ground, and there would be a ditch. And on that ditch, they would form a they would put forms and put in a a footing. Okay, so they would form a footing. Typically, it would be like this, and that footing would be poured in all across that ditch or straight, and that would be a strip footing running all across or through the length of the wall. And this little raised concrete here is where the wall framing would go. The width of this footing is what we are seeing on our AutoCAD file. So the width of this, or the distance of these two dashed lines, that is the width of the footing here. Okay, so that's what these two lines are all about. Okay, um, and then we would probably have another type of footing, uh, which is basically a foundation footing, and it's typically under any post. So we would have a post here. Okay, and so the engineer, let's close this and go to the model space. So the engineer would darken the footing. So there would be a footing here probably. I mean the post, and there would be another post somewhere here, maybe. So let's just say there's another post here. So there would be two posts, and on that two posts, underneath that, you would have a foundation. Okay, and that's typically a um, a square, and it would also be dashed, indicating that's below the ground. So this is your um, foundation footing, and this would be your continuous wall footing or a strip footing. Okay, so what is this foundation footing? So the foundation footing, also known as an isolated footing, it can come in different designs. You can see here there's a simple footing where it's just a flat piece, or they could slope it, and it's called slope footing, or they could step it like a ziggurat or like a pyramid. So it could be as simple like this one here, where it's flat and there's rebars inside them, okay? Or they could do it like this one, where it's stepped, okay? And they just typically put forms and then pour concrete on the dirt or on the ground, or it's just rebars before they put in concrete. But yeah, that is used wherever there is a column that they wanted to put in. It's isolated, it's not connected. Here, you would see some connections here, but there's still this footing here for a column, and then you get the strip or continuous wall footing all around. So this is more expensive to do, but this is a more stable structural footing because it uh, treats this whole footing as one piece. Okay, so yeah, those are the footing plans. This is a strip footing, and then they would have an isolated footing in the middle for the footing or foundation plan of structural engineers. Now, engineers would determine which wall needs a footing and which wall does not. So, for example, if this elevator is um, part of a structural system, which it is because this elevator goes from a first floor to the second floor, then this would need its own footing. And the elevator itself needs a clear um, pit width. So the structural engineer would probably cross out that this is a pit, and he would adjust the footing here to not go beyond what the wall of the mm, elevator would be. Okay, so he would trim this out. Let's do a break first, so we can adjust this and go back somewhere here, and this one too. And we want to make this also a dash line. There you go. And then that would be now a double line on this side. Okay, so let's say that footing is 16 inches. Will be there, and then this would connect to. Let's do this break. We're gonna break it here and erase this, and then do this footing here and this one too. There you go. So that would be the footing is clear over here. If a wall does not carry any load, then it would not, and it may be this one. Or in some cases, the wall footing would extend. Is like, for example, if there is a lined up wall here, okay, the wall footing might extend and continue, even though sometimes there's like no need to over there, but it just ties everything together. And we'll just trim that and match property. Let's do a fillet first here. Match property. There you go. Okay, let's clear that. Let's really clear this. Yeah, so there you go. So, and then the last piece is that any footing, any column should have its own grid. And if the architect did not put a grid on there, the engineers would come in now and put their own grid. Okay, so they would match that grid wherever the architect put it. Okay, so let's have to here. Okay, and that line type would be center. Okay, and so they would just copy that as part of what the architect wanted. And because there would be a column here and the architect didn't put a grid there, and it's important. Columns are important pieces of building elements that needs to have its own grid. Then the engineer would probably put one in there, and he would put it smack in the middle. And if that's too crowded, he would pull it out over here in this end. Okay. Uh, then match property, and you would also do the same thing here. Let's just copy this. There you go. Okay. Also the vertical. We can just let's just go up to here. Okay. And then we can just offset that. Let's match properties first before we offset. And it looks like the architect did line over here, but you would just cut it short so it just doesn't. There you go. Okay. What about this one? What is this grid? So those are things that the engineers would be thinking about. It doesn't look like that's a grid. It looks like that's is a cutting plane. So um, we just erase that. Okay. And there you have it. We have our foundation plan with a strip footing all around and an isolated footing with grids. And what would that look like on the structural sheet? Okay. Um, there's an additional sheet here, or there's an additional bubble here. And the architect or the engineer would just copy whatever we have put in there as architects. And in between C and D, he would probably name this maybe a C and then a prime or a C, right? So something like that, okay? Or he may put in a new letter there, but normally if it's before and after a letter, he would just typically do that, okay? Then there's another one here, okay? And that would be a D prime or D apostrophe, okay? And then he would also put in a dimension. Uh, oh, I missed that. What is the uh, length factor of this one? We're just going to match it with the LT scale here. Fit demand primary units 96, and this one is here 96. Nope. Hmm. Dim scale 96. Something's wrong. I'm just going to match property. Let's see if it'll just accept that. Made a mistake. Match property. Click this first before this. There you go. And then continue the dimension. That is an intersection, not an endpoint. To here, which is another intersection. And we're going to just match this and then match property. Okay. Let's just leave it for now like that. That's a little odd, but um, or we can just put 19 feet and 3 inches. So we can override that. 19, oh, delete first, 19 feet and 3 inches. Nope, there you go, 19.3. Okay, so that would be how you're going to draft your footing plan. Let's just save this and look at a preview. Yeah, there it is. Okay. And later on, we would cut a section of this footing um, for your structural details. There are different styles on how to express this footing, but let's just leave it blank for now. Some structural engineers would actually hatch this, but I think you can see now which is which. There's really no valid line types here. The engineer does not typically concern themselves with presentation. They just want information. So, so they would just have one line type, and that's good. Okay. So that's going to be your foundation plan, and we're going to continue with our wall framing plan on our next video.